Now before we start this session, let me introduce myself. So I am Suyesh Pandey, your instructor for this workshop. I am a cybersecurity educator and an ethical hacker with a passion of simplifying complex technical topics that become easy to understand for everyone. So welcome everyone to this workshop on network and Wi-Fi hacking. It is a hands-on learning experience designed to take you from the fundamentals of computer networks to the practical execution of real-world attacks in a controlled and ethical environment. Whether you are a student or tech enthusiast or an aspiring ethical hacker, this workshop will equip you with the skills that are necessary to understand, analyze, and ethically exploit network vulnerabilities. And we are going to use industry standard tools and techniques from MAC spoofing to packet sniffing to wireless encryption cracking. Each and every concept is broken down in a beginner friendly way so that you can learn, practice, and apply without any background knowledge. Even if you don't have any prior knowledge about Wi-Fi hacking, I am ensuring you that by the end of this session, you will walk away with a solid foundation in ethical hacking, practical experience with Kali Linux, and a roadmap on Wi-Fi hacking to strengthen your cybersecurity journey. So let's see what we have on the module today, and the first topic we have is Introduction to Wi-Fi Hacking, where we will see how Wi-Fi hacking really works, what is done in the Wi-Fi hacking, what actually ethical hackers performs, and why it is much needed in the cybersecurity and why it is so necessary. Then we have covered networking basics, what is IP addresses, what are MAC addresses, how they work, how network works actually. Then we will get our hands on practically in MAC spoofing, how we can change our MAC address, and then we will discuss about changing our wireless modes, what are these modes of wireless adapters. Then we will do some packet sniffing. We will discuss what is packet sniffing and why packet sniffing is important for ethical hacking. Then we will discuss about Wi-Fi band frequencies, and we will perform a targeted packet sniffing on a particular network, on a particular router, and then we will perform a deauthentication attack to disconnect all the devices from that router, and we will see why it is so important to crack the Wi-Fi password of any router or of any Wi-Fi. So now let's move ahead and discuss what is actually Wi-Fi hacking. So Wi-Fi hacking is a practice of testing the security of a wireless network to identify weakness and vulnerabilities, and it actually involves trying to gain unauthorized access to a Wi-Fi network to understand how attackers might actually exploit them. So before an unethical hacker or a black hat hacker, you can say, exploit the target, we as an ethical hacker, we as a responsible cybersecurity guy have to exploit that before to patch up the encryption. Now what includes in the Wi-Fi hacking is capturing Wi-Fi traffic, capturing the Wi-Fi password, performing attacks like man in the middle attack, deauthentication attack, fake authentication attack. So we are going to perform it later. And now the main question is, why is Wi-Fi hacking important in cybersecurity? See, wireless networks are commonly targeted, so attackers often exploit weak passwords or misconfigured routers to gain access to private networks, and we have to fix that, right? So that's why it is important. Also, there is most of the data that are flowing over the Wi-Fi. It contains sensitive information like your login credentials, email, banking details, and many more things just traveling in the thin air. Also, knowing Wi-Fi hacking can prevent data breaches. So when you will learn how hackers exploit Wi-Fi, you will build the protection for user and data in future if you are going into that field of building a secure environment. So that's why knowing Wi-Fi hacking is also important in cybersecurity, and you have to know how you can crack it. You have to think like a hacker. Now let's move ahead and see what we have in networking basics. So now what is a network actually? So network is just a simple group of two or more connected devices that share their data and resources, and it allows communication between computers, servers and other hardware over wired or wireless connections. So that is what a network is. Now what is IP address? So you can think IP address as your home address. So every network adapter, every router has its own IP address, and mind you, these IP address can be changed. For example, take your phone. When you are connected to your home network or your home router or your home Wi-Fi, the IP address will be different when you will be connected to your neighbor's Wi-Fi. So IP address can be changed depending on which Wi-Fi you are connected. It's just like your home address. Suppose you are today in Mumbai, tomorrow in Delhi, so your home address will be changed. That is what IP address of a network adapter is. Then comes the MAC address. Now what is a MAC address? Think of it as your fingerprint or your retina scan. Something cannot be changed. So every manufacturer provides a MAC address to the network adapter that cannot be changed unless we perform MAC spoofing. Unless it is unique and permanent. Every device has its own MAC address and the MAC address never gets repeated ever. So unless we do MAC spoofing, it is permanent and unique and cannot be changed. But why MAC spoofing is done in cybersecurity or by hackers? So changing your MAC address helps you stay anonymous and bypassing MAC filters or evading network tracking during the ethical hacking or penetration testing. So when you will change your MAC address, it will just cover your real identity. That's why hackers use MAC address spoofing. And to note an important point, this change remains temporary. It only lasts until the device is rebooted or your network interface is restarted. So when you will restart your device or you will disconnect and reconnect your network adapter, the MAC address will be changed what it was before. So this MAC spoofing is just a temporary method to stay anonymous over a network. So let's move ahead on our Kali Linux machine and let's see how we can perform MAC spoofing. Also, if you are just a complete beginner into this field and don't know anything about Linux and Kali Linux, we have a complete dedicated course on Linux in our YouTube channel and the link is provided on the workshop WhatsApp group, and for the new users it will be uploaded again on the group. So do check the Linux course if you want to learn how Linux works, how these terminal things works. So let's begin our MAC spoofing and move ahead. So now we are on our Kali Linux machine and we will perform the practicals here. So let's open our terminal here first and bring it to the center, and let's first increase the size of the font. And here, before changing the MAC address of our external network adapter, let's see if it is connected or not. And to check that, we will enter a command, that is ifconfig. So once we enter this command, as you can see, we have three interfaces here. First is loopback interface, then we have LAN 0 interface, and then we have LAN 1. Now I'm not going to explain everything in detail here. We have explained in the Linux course. So as you can see, this LAN 0 is my internal network adapter and this LAN 1 is my external network adapter. Now we can also check by using a command lsusb to see if our external network adapter is connected or not. So let's type this command lscusb, and once we hit enter, you can see we get many output here. Let me expand this terminal. So as we can see, we have this TP-Link TLVN722N version 2 network adapter here, and this is our external network adapter, and this Qualcomm Athros communication is my internal network adapter. So let's type the ifconfig command once again, and as you can see here in the ether, this is the MAC address that we are going to change. Now to change this MAC address, first we have to disable this interface, because we cannot change a MAC address while it's up and running. And to perform that, we have a command that is ifconfig LAN 0 down or LAN 1 down. So let's perform it. So ifconfig and LAN 1, because we are disabling this LAN 1 interface, so we will type LAN 1 and then we will just hit or type enter down, and once we hit enter, these operations are not permitted because we are not in the sudo privilege. So let's type sudo su to get into sudo user, and we will use this command once again, that is ifconfig here and LAN 1, that is the name of the interface, and then down. So once we hit enter, this interface is down now. Now we have to change the MAC address of this network adapter. That was this before. So to change the network adapter's MAC address, we have a simple command, that is ifconfig LAN 1 wh ether, because we are going to change its MAC address, and we can name any address here, but we are going to name it simple 0011223344 and 55. So this is a 12-digit MAC address, and once we hit enter, and if we turn this interface up again, so let's type LAN 1 up here, and once we type ifconfig now, we can see the MAC address of this LAN 1 interface is changed to this. So that's how you can simply change the MAC address of your network adapter. So now we have learned how we can change the MAC address of our network adapter. We have more topics, so let's move ahead. So now, since we have learned a lot of things, we have learned about networking basics, we have learned what is IP address, what is MAC address, and how we can actually change our MAC address, or you can say in the technical language, how we can actually spoof our MAC address. But before capturing packets on the network or targeting a particular router or a network, we have to know how these devices communicate over the network, how they actually respond to the internet, and how they actually get responses back from the internet. So in the daily life, when you go to google.com and search for any website, you think the request directly goes on the internet, but in real life or in the technical aspects, that is not the case. When you type any website name, the request goes through the router, then to the internet. Suppose your request is just like this brown package, and it is generated from your computer, that is the source of this request. So it has a source MAC address that is of your own computer, and then it has a destination MAC address that is of your home Wi-Fi. Then it transfers the request to the internet and responds you back. Let's see how it actually works. So suppose you want to go to the worldtech.com. So you will send request to your router that, hey router, I want to visit worldtech.com, and then that router will send that request to the internet, and when the request will reach the internet will respond back to your router with the website, and then your router will respond back to that website to your computer, and that website will get loaded on your screen. That's how actually these things works. And to clarify more things, these requests, these packets even if you are opening your email, reading your email, sending your email to someone, or maybe doing some bank transaction, all these things goes through the Wi-Fi router, or you can say these things literally travel in the thin air. So if someone can sniff these packets or crack these encryptions, can actually see your details. But since we are learning how we can sniff or how we can see or capture the packets over the Wi-Fi or over the network, let's see how we can do it. And to perform that, we have to change our Wi-Fi modes. So let's see what are these Wi-Fi modes and how we can change it practically as well. So let's move ahead to our next slide. And in this slide, as we can see, we have managed mode, that is a normal mode. So managed mode is normally enabled by default in your Wi-Fi adapters, because as a normal user we use network adapter or Wi-Fi adapter to only access normal websites, to surf Google, stream videos, use chatting on applications, and basically using Wi-Fi like everyone else. So these managed mode comes by default in our network adapters, and we have to change it to monitor mode. Now monitor mode doesn't come by default in all adapters, so you may need a external Wi-Fi adapter that supports monitor mode. I have a network adapter right here connected in my machine, and we will change it to monitor mode, and I will show you how you can change it to monitor mode. But before changing its mode, let's discuss what is monitor mode. So in this mode, your Wi-Fi adapter just listens to all the wireless traffic around you. Even if you are not connected to any network, you don't actually need to connect in this mode to any network. And also we run some commands when we change to monitor mode that will disable your network connectivity, because we don't need it. We just want to listen to all the traffic, all the wireless traffic around us, and it will let you see who is connected by the nearby network, and it will capture some unencrypted data. If some network is open and it is not encrypted, it will help you perform deauthentication attacks, spoofing attacks, and it will also analyze Wi-Fi handshakes for cracking passwords. That's what we are going to use while we are cracking Wi-Fi passwords. So let's see it practically how we can change it to monitor mode. So let's head back to our Kali Linux machine and let's see. So let's type iwconfig here now to check our network adapter modes. So as you can see in the LAN 1 interface that we are going to use in packet sniffing and all the stuff, it is in the managed mode, and as I have told you, managed mode is used for only accessing the normal internet and browsing internet and streaming videos, and we have to change it to monitor mode as we have discussed. But before we use command to change it into monitor mode, we have to perform another command from Airmon-ng to kill all the background processes that can be a hurdle in changing our adapter's mode to monitor mode. And to perform that command, we just have to simply type Airmon-ng and check kill. So this command will simply do, it will check all the background processes that are running, and then it will kill all these processes that can interfere our operation. So once we hit enter, you can say there is a process that is being killed or that has been killed. Now we can just simply change our network adapter's mode from managed to the monitor mode. But let's first make it disable. So we will just type ifconfig LAN 1 down, and then we will change its mode to monitor. And to perform that, we have a simple command, that is Airmon-ng, and then type start and then type the interface name. Now if you are not in the sudo user, change yourself to sudo user, or if you are not in sudo user, you have to type every time sudo before these commands. So then now type interface name, that was LAN1, and once we hit enter, you can see the interface LAN1 that we are using, and that is actually our internal network adapter. So now we have to change our external network adapter to monitor mode, and to perform that we just have to do all these things that we have performed now. So let's do it again. So just simply type ifconfig LAN0 down, because it is the external adapter and it is enabled, so we have to first disable it, and then we have to type Airmon-ng check kill, and all the processes has been killed in the background. Now we have to type Airmon-ng start, and now LAN0. So now as we can see, our TP link that was LAN0 is now in monitor mode. It says the monitor mode is enabled now. Now we can use this network adapter now to perform packet sniffing. Now before performing packet sniffing, let's clear this terminal. So we have better output now and have a clear terminal. And let's discuss first what is packet sniffing and move ahead. So now what is packet sniffing actually? So let me explain this in a very real life manner. Suppose you are a detective and you are assigned with a task that you have to see or listen to particular target, what they are communicating and what they are sharing between them. So you will act as a sniffer, or you can say you will perform a packet sniffing in that way. That is what you will do on the network. You won't connect to those networks, you will just observe these networks from a distance, that what these networks are doing, what they are sharing between them, and what these devices are actually performing over the network. And to capture some data, you don't need to be connected to the Wi-Fi. So that is how actually packet sniffing is done. So since we are done with the theory, let's get a hand on the practical and let's see how we can do this packet sniffing now. So let's move back to our Kali Linux machine and let's see. So now we have understood how packet sniffing is done. Let's do it real quick on our terminal. And to perform packet sniffing, we just have to use the simple command, that is Airodump-ng and then the interface name. So let's get it quick on our terminal. So we just have to type Airodump-ng and then the interface name, that is LAN0. So once we hit enter, so as we hit enter, you can see we have some output, some BSS ID. So let's increase the terminal size so we can get more better output, and let's increase its size more. So as we can see, we have multiple BSS IDs showing here. These are nothing but the MAC address of all the routers. Then we have PWR, that is signal strength, or you can say power. So larger the number we have, that means the better signal strength we have here. Then we have beacon, that is nothing but it just signifies its presence. Basically there are multiple networks here. So even if there is a hidden network, it will give you some beacons. That means it is telling that, hey, I exist here. Then we have some data packets here. We are going to discuss what are these data packets, how we can manipulate them. Then we have channel number, that on which channel the router is being hosted. Then we have megabits of data being transmitted. Then we have encryption type, WPA, WPA2, WPA3. Then we have cipher, that is mentioned what type of cipher it is using, and all the WPA2, WPA3 encryption use CCMP cipher. Then we have authentication, that means where we can see it is written PSK, that means there is password on these networks. Now then we have ESSID, and this is something similar. Now what is this SSID is? This is nothing but simply the name of all the Wi-Fi networks available around us. Then we also have some particular data here where the particular BSS ID and stations are mentioned. We will discuss what are these and how we can actually use them. Also here you can identify in the probes that these are some mobile phones or some devices. I can see that there is a Galaxy F15 phone that is continuously looking for some network connections. That means the Wi-Fi is open here, but it is not connected to any particular network or router. It is constantly looking for some network connection. So this is a very helpful output here as well. We got another output here. We have a Redmi phone that just disappeared, and that basically means these devices either getting connected to someone or just looking for some connection in the probe section. So if we extend it little lower, we can see we still have these devices. Now before we move to targeted packet sniffing, we will first discuss about frequency bands. So let's discuss in our PPT and move further. So now since we have discovered a lot of result in our packet sniffing, we have got a lot of Wi-Fi connections on our terminal. We can see there are multiple 5 GHz connections, multiple 2 GHz connections. Now let's discuss what these gigahertz frequencies are. So it is a short introduction to these Wi-Fi bands. So you can see these 2.5 GHz networks are bit slower in data transfer, but they have longer range. They can connect you in a long range, but on the other hand, these 5 GHz frequencies are shorter ranged. Like they won't let you go further away, but when you are in the range of these 5 GHz frequencies, they will give you much faster and better results in data transfer, or when you are streaming some videos, they will give you much better results. Now we have some commands as well to particularly observe 2.4 GHz frequency network interfaces and 5 GHz frequency network interfaces as well. So let's see on the terminal how we can do that. So now let's keep it running here and we will see if my network adapter that only supports 2.4 GHz of frequency will discover 5 GHz frequency networks or not. So we will just test it. So let me split this terminal into two and we will do it by this, and as we can see we have to keep it running. You can stop it by using Ctrl C. Basically we can terminate any process by Ctrl C in the Linux. So just type Ctrl C here, and as you can see this process of continuously sniffing is stopped here. Now we will see if our network adapter is able to identify all the 5 GHz frequencies or not. So we will just type Airodump-ng here. Let's do it in this terminal and we will apply sudo su here, and let's see if it recognizes 5 GHz frequency networks or not. So let's type Airodump-ng here and we will type -- bands here. That's we are going to check for the bands. We will type A and then we will type interface name, that is LAN 0, and once we hit enter here, so let's see if it can recognize 5 GHz frequency networks or not. So as we can see, it recognized only one network with 5 GHz frequency. I don't know how it recognized because my network adapter doesn't support 5 GHz frequency. And now let's stop it right here and we will try another command. That's where we will just use abg here and we will hit enter, and this will show us all the networks present or that our network adapter is capturing. So now let's move ahead and do some targeted packet sniffing, in which we are going to particularly target a router, or you can say a particular network, to see what devices are connected on that network, and then we will perform some deauthentication attack on that network on a particular device. Let's clear our both of the terminal first, so it doesn't get messy. And let's go here and clear this terminal as well, and now we will type those commands again to capture packets, and then we will target a particular network or particular router to sniff packets on it. So let's run that command again, and now Control C, and then we are going to target this Suyesh 2.4G, that is my own Wi-Fi network that is transmitting 2.4 GHz frequencies. And as we can see, we have this BSS ID, so we are just going to copy this here, and that will help us. So let's come here and we will just type a command, that is Airodump-ng and / BSS ID, and then we have to give the MAC address of that particular router. So we will just paste it here because we have copied it, and then we will give it the channel name or channel number, we can say. And let's see what was the channel number here. So the channel number of this router was 11, so we will just type here 11, and then we will save the output in a file. So we will just give it a prompt here, that is / write, and we will name it as Suyesh, and then we have to give the interface name, that is LAN 0, and once we hit enter, we can see we have got the output, and there are two devices connected to this network. And to check what data is getting transferred or transmitted in this network or on these devices, we have a tool named Wireshark. So let's use that Wireshark tool. We will type here Wireshark and hit enter, and it will just open our tool here. So let's wait a second. So now we will go to the file section here, click on the open, and here as you can see we have a file named as suyesh01.cap. Now remember, Airodump-ng gives 01 it by default, so when we will use it in the handshake capturing part to crack Wi-Fi password, we have to type the full name, that is Suyesh/01. So once we will open this file and click on OK here, and let's maximize this, and as we can see there are multiple packets getting transferred to a particular destination. Now if this network wasn't protected or encrypted, whatever this device or whatever this particular mobile phone, as I have connected my mobile phone here to this network, is doing, or whatever the web browsing or web surfing it is doing, we could have seen it, but since it is encrypted, we cannot see further. So let's close it now and stop it with Control C now here. So now since we know how we can do a target packet sniffing to know on what network what particular devices are connected and what they are trying to do. Now after knowing all this and doing packet sniffing, we can perform deauthentication on a particular device to disconnect it from the network. Now let's see how deauthentication works. So let's go back to the PPT and discuss. So now since we have learned how we can actually do packet sniffing and actually target a particular network to do targeted packet sniffing to perform a deauthentication attack, basically to disconnect a particular device from a network to capture some packets. Now let's see how deauthentication attack actually works. So let's see on our PPT in a simplified manner how deauthentication attack actually works. So as you can see here, we have two devices. We have a client, that is the actual device connected on the network, and we have a hacker that is pretending to be that device, because as you can see we have the same MAC address of a client here on the hacker's machine. So now what this hacker will do, he will pretend that he is the client and he will send a message to router that I am the client, I want to disconnect, and that router will obey its request and it will say okay, I'm disconnecting you, and then it will simply just disconnect the actual client or actual target. And once it will try to reconnect to the network, we will capture some handshakes that will be very helpful in cracking the Wi-Fi password. So let's do it practically and let's see how it is actually done. So now since we have discussed how deauthentication attack works, let's get a hand on to this practically. So just we have to type a simple command to perform deauthentication attack, and now we are going to use Aireplay-ng here, not Airmon-ng. So just type, so let's clear this terminal first and we will here type Aireplay-ng and then -- Deauth to perform deauthentication attack, and then we have to type a packet size on this network that we are going to send for deauthentication, and make sure it is a large packet size. So we have to keep the deauthentication attack for a longer time so that it can last for a longer time. Then we will use -A here to specify the target of to specify the MAC address of the target. So let's copy this router's MAC address here and we will just paste it here simply, and then we will use -C to specify the client's MAC address, and let's say we have this MAC address here. So let's copy it here and we have to paste it, and then we have to type the interface name, that is LAN 0, and once we hit enter it will start the authentication attack. But this might fail because to perform this we have to continuously run Airodump-ng. So here we will run Airodump-ng again, and this time we won't save this file, so we will just clear this suyash and write prompt here and we will hit enter, and as you can see the Airodump-ng is running here. And let's go back to this terminal, and once we hit enter, so as we have performed this deauthentication attack, I can see my device, my phone is now just disconnected from my 2.4 GHz network and it is reconnected to the 5 GHz network. That's how we perform deauthentication attack on a particular device or on a particular network. So now let's stop it and go back to our PPT. So now since we have performed deauthentication attack, that's a wrap up for today's session. We have successfully covered everything, the foundational concepts of network hacking, and we have ended with a demonstration of deauthentication attack. This is one of the key techniques used to disconnect devices from a network and capture useful data for further analysis. In our next workshop, we will build on these techniques and move towards Wi-Fi cracking, applying what we have learned today in this real world scenario. So make sure you keep practicing the steps and commands and techniques we have covered today so you don't get loose on the commands. Also, this session will be uploaded on YouTube, so if you face any issue or come across any error while practicing these commands, feel free to drop your question in the comment section. I'll be there to help you out to solve your errors. So now you can ask me any questions. Now let's have a Q&A session right now.